honorable ministers, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished guests, the Director of Programs, I wish to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the hosts, the government of Norway, for the warm hospitality offered to my delegation by the government and people of Norway since our arrival in this beautiful city, Oslo. I also wish to equally thank the organizers for the splendid facilities that have been put at our disposal for this conference. Director of Programs, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, at the outset, I wish to tender sincere apologies from Honorable Given Lubinda, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Zambia, who is unable to attend this conference due to other equally important national commitments. He requested me to convey his sincere greetings and pledged to be with us if invited in our future meetings. I wish to take this opportunity to register the Minister's passion and appreciation of NORAD activities in developing countries. Director of Programs, the theme of this conference, the future of foreign aid, is befitting considering that the conference is being convened at the time of raging debates and aid effectiveness and coincides with a phase of global economic slowdown and economic uncertainties in some of our cooperating partners. The global economic slump does not only affect some of our traditional cooperating partners, but it threatens also to erode the ongoing recovery and economic gains by developing countries on the rising commodity prices. Zambia-Norway bilateral development assistance has been in existence since 1965. Norway's development assistance has always been in line with the Zambian government's priorities and national development plans. Furthermore, Norway's assistance to Zambia has been efficient and result-oriented. Zambia aspires to become a prosperous middle-income nation by 2030. In this regard, I am happy that NORAD's assistance is focusing in key areas such as poverty reduction, budget support, natural resource management, climate adaptation, and food security. Director of Programs, Zambia is committed to adhering to tenets of good governance and democracy. In this regard, my government has adopted a zero tolerance to corruption to ensure that resources trickle down to the intended targets and utilized efficiently. The government is also committed to strengthening the institutions of good governance, such as the Electoral Commission and Human Rights Commissions. We appreciate the support given by the Norwegian government in supporting the Office of the Auditor General of Zambia and Zambia Revenue Authority and Anti-Corruption Commission and Gender as well. Concentrating in this area enhances transparency and efficient utilization of resources. While Zambia aspires to be a middle-income country by 2030, there are a number of challenges to overcome. Although the Zambian economy has been growing at an average rate of 6% per annum in the last decade, the expansion has not translated into significant reductions in poverty and improved general living conditions of the majority of Zambians. Job creation has not been commensurate with the gains registered from economic growth, partly because of low labor productivity, low absorption capacity of the labor market for school leavers, particularly the youth, and the concentration of growth in highly capital-intensive and urban-based sections like mining, construction, and services. Current obstacles to achieving development and poverty reduction in Zambia include poor infrastructure, such as critical infrastructure for electricity, transportation, water, and sanitation. Poor transport infrastructure, together with high cost and inadequate information and communication technology services, adversely affect productivity and competitiveness of the economy. Other obstacles include low quality of human capital, high cost of financial services, and limited access to land. Although public expenditure management has generally improved, some weaknesses have continued to be a challenge. With regard to public expenditure management, the areas of concern include weak accountability, monitoring and evaluation systems of public expenditure, deficiencies in and low rate of implementation of public sector projects. These are further compounded by poor enforcement of standards, which lead to sub-optimal use of public resources and delays in project completion. Director of Programs, Zambia is a well-endowed in natural resources such as land and wildlife, forests, minerals, natural heritage, and waterlands. My government attaches great importance to efficient and effective management of natural resources, as some of them are important sources of livelihood and energy for some sections of our society. Our government remains committed to reversing deforestation, wildlife depletion, heritage sites degradation, and land degradation. I wish to appreciate NORAD's continued assistance to Zambia in the area of agriculture. Agriculture is Zambia's primary sector in achieving sustainable economic growth, reducing poverty, as approximately over 80% of the rural population is entirely dependent on agriculture-related activities to their livelihood. Over the last year, Norway has scaled up its support considerably towards conservation farming, which focuses on climate, robust agriculture, and small-scale farmers with the objective of facilitating broad-based national programs that address food security and the livelihood of the poor peasant farmers. The growth of the agriculture sector is important in the attainment of the long-term vision for Zambia, which is to be a prosperous middle-income nation by 2030. In order to minimize the adverse effects of climate change, the government has programs to develop appropriate adaptation measures. The agriculture sector, forestry policies, and strategies have been targeted by government to create jobs in the next 5 years. To regionalize the forestry sector, government will review and improve forest management systems, introduce forest extension, provide tree seedlings, and enhance private sector participation in the sector. I also wish to appreciate NORAD's long-standing support to Zambia's national parks and wildlife conservation areas, which is focused on biodiversity and sustainable management of these resources through the Zambia Wildlife Authority, ZAWA. I'm happy that with NORAD's support, South Luangwa National Park has become one of the best managed national parks in the region. Notwithstanding the good progress made thus far in natural resource management, the sector still faces a number of challenges, among them lower investments and poor management of natural resources. Other challenges include inadequate human capital and weak enforcement of legal framework. Having said that, I therefore urge NORAD to continue providing the assistance on how to overcome these challenges. Director of Programs, we are concerned about challenges posed by climate change. Zambia, like any other country, has not been spared to climate-induced changes of the country's physical and biological systems. Global warming-induced changes are exerting stress on key areas such as agriculture and food security, wildlife, forestry, water, energy, and human health, hence negatively affecting economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development. To achieve a climate-resilient development pathway, Zambia will need assistance from NORAD and other cooperating partners. Other forms of assistance needed include access to technology, capacity building, and institutional strengthening. Director of Programs, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, with regard to mining, the sector remains the major contributor to Zambia's economic growth, and it also contributes to tax revenues, foreign exchange earnings, and the country's formal employment. In this regard, there is high potential for the sector to contribute to poverty reduction and wealth creation in the country. However, the sector faces numerous challenges. Current problems include lack of systems to monitor and account for the amount of minerals produced and exported. This adversely affects Zambia's domestic resource mobilization efforts and development planning. In this regard, we appreciate the support from the Norwegian government in strengthening the tax system so as to secure revenues from the mining sector. The assistance includes the development of in-house expertise at the Zambia Revenue Authority in specialized tax audits at the mining sector. the government's plan to put some measures meant to strengthen the tax system, such as follows. 1, putting in place systems and institutions of governance in 2013 budget, which is being discussed now and being passed in the next 2 or 3 days. 2, adequately resourcing and equipping the Ministry of Mines, Energy and Water Development to enable it access the nature, quality, and quantity of minerals being mined and exported. 3, strengthening penal sanctions for false reporting of mineral production and export information. Through the implementation of these measures, mineral exports and proceeds will be strictly monitored through an integrated framework. Director of Programs, I also wish to state that in 2013, the government will introduce property transfer tax at the rate of 10% of the scale of the sale of transfer of mining rights. Government will also reduce to 25% from 100% the capital expenditure deduction rate applicable in the mining sector and further provide that capital expenditure be claimed for deduction from the year the capital asset is brought into use in the business. Other measures include the application of transfer pricing rules to interest payments made by mining companies. This measure is interest payments made by mining companies. This measure is meant to ensure that interest payments are not only subject to thin capitalization rules, but also transfer pricing rules, where the rates on interest between related or associated parties is not at arm's length. Plans are also underway to increase the withholding tax rate payments to non-residents for management or consultancy fees and royalties to 20% from the current 15%. Director of Programs, Your Excellencies and Ambassadors, lastly but not the least, I urge the Norwegian government to continue working closely with the Zambian government towards bolstering economic growth in Zambia, as well as staying on course with regard to poverty reduction efforts and achieving human development in Zambia. In the interest of time, Director of Programs, Your Excellencies, I hereby wish to end my remarks by underscoring my country's confidence and commitment to continued cooperation with Norad. I thank you.